So, I'm Ray Fisk. I'm the first of the three presenters here today. Our topic is ServCollab's research funding opportunities. That's why we've organized this webinar. And in addition to me speaking, Qusay Hamdan will speak, and Amir Raki, we expect will be joining us and speak. If not, we can cover his parts. All the parts are in this slide. We will share the video of this with you after the session so that you'll be able to see the video and see the slides again afterwards. So let me get right to it then. So here's the topics we have for you today. Basically, I'm going to introduce ServCollab's purpose and process. Qusay is going to give you an overview of the ServCollab grants, and also he's going to give you an overview of the student scholarship, followed by Amir with getting into the details of the application assessment criteria and assessment process itself. So to get to the first part then, ServCollab's purpose and process. Now, as you can see on the slide, I'm the founder and president of ServCollab. So what I'm going to go through is just some quick background on why we do what we do and how we do what we do with these slides. So the purpose of ServCollab comes from our name. ServCollab is a contraction of serving humanity through collaboration. So serving humanity, that first part, that is our purpose. And the last part of that phrase, through collaboration, is the one of you just asked for questions that popped up in the middle of my screen. I'm gonna have to turn that off. The last part of that is that our process itself is through collaboration. That's the process we pursue to achieve that purpose. And it is all based on transformative service research, which is something I'm proud to have been a participant in at the beginning. And throughout our process with ServCollab, we have tried to build and expand on that original foundation of transformative service research. And you can see our websites there as well on that slide. So here's a slide that is really at the heart of why I started ServCollab, that we believe that service researchers are uniquely positioned to help accelerate human progress. And that's because we see service systems. Earth itself is full of billions of humans, and the systems we've created are service systems. So let me expand on serving humanity then, that purpose part of what we do. It's because we're a social species. Our human life occurs in nested systems. These are families, cities, nations, and organizations. Those are our systems. And for most of human history, these systems have neglected or excluded some of the people within this system. This is part of the tragedy of human history. But all humans live on the same planet and we all share the same basic needs. The systems we live in, we created those systems. They can be cruel or they can be kind. And in our logic, in our serving humanity logic, all systems created by humans should serve humanity. So we think we should choose kindness. And that's a significant part of what we're trying to encourage with our research, a kinder way for systems to work by serving humanity. So here's a slide that tries to give you a quick overview of transformative service research outcomes. Starting with the year 2011, when the 12 of us formed a group to really try to write the first major document on improving well-being. And Andrew Gallen's part of that team. He's on the call today. He and I were part of the 12. So in that first framing in 2011, we argued that transformative service should improve well-being. And that's a common logic across social sciences. It came out of the transformative consumer research effort too. Not long after that, however, Linda Alkire and I wrote a paper about refugees and applied transformative service research to it. And we realized that improving well-being was not quite the right spot to start. So we added reducing suffering to the outcomes that transformative service research should seek. So reducing suffering was added in 2019. Later, after I formed ServCollab and we got busy working on our various projects, we added a third outcome, In 2023, we put it up on our website, and we've now published it in some of the things we've written. The third outcome goes beyond the sort of the baseline of well-being that all of us would like to at least feel like we're doing well, to go beyond that to becoming better, to which is called well-becoming. It's an idea that I think is very applicable to the new opportunities. The only place we found it in the literature was in education. Education researchers write about the well-becoming that students go through. So we thought it really should be added to the outcomes. So from reducing suffering, improving well-being to enabling well-becoming. So here's our mission for ServCollab, to serve humanity through research collaborations that catalyze reducing suffering, improving well-being, and enabling well-becoming. And again, that last part, the new part, is in green because we added it. In our original publication in 2020 that introduced ServCollab, we only had the other two. So now to the process. Through collaboration, as I've said, much of human history concerns systems designed for cruelty and dominance. And these are patriarchies, aristocracies, emperors, slavery, feudalism, colonialism, all things that were either cruel or dominant or both, and they made a mess of human history. We still live with the damage done by those systems. To us, a better idea is part of an article I had written with colleagues in 2019, Transformative Collaboration, which is a higher form of collaboration based on full human agency and shared trust. If we could create and regularly have systems based on that, they would truly serve humanity. And they would not be cruel or dominance because no one would choose cruelty or dominance. Now, to one other key idea about collaboration, collaborative service research. Basically, who could you collaborate with in your school, country, or in the world? And I'll come back to the visual in just a minute, but we're eager for people who associate with us to do collaborative research, which is part of the reason we're doing this funding webinar today. And you could pursue a collaborative wisdom project that served humanity, and we encourage you to consider any possibility within your own school, within your own country, within your own world, in the world rather, and across disciplines. The graphic you're seeing there is part of a set of Sustainable Development Goal articles written on behalf of ServCollab in the Journal of Services Marketing. This is the last article of the series in which we relabeled the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of partnerships and renamed it collaboration. And then we put all the other Sustainable Development Goals in new categories too, and argued that collaboration is the essence of making human progress. So enough of that slide. I need to show you the service wisdom principles that we've been developing. And there's three. First is serving each other. We think this is the essence of what it takes to even be able to collaborate. If we can't serve each other's needs, we will never quit fighting and arguing with each other. We'll never get to collaboration. If we can collaborate, we can get to the next stage, which is serving the truth. And serving the truth requires carefully testable resources so that we can actually verify and believe in a shared truth. That is the second and an important wisdom principle. The third is serving the future. And serving the future, we think, is what human societies do when they do their best. Families try to serve the future. Cities try to serve the future. The best of human systems should try to serve the future. And we think these three wisdom principles are human universals. We think that across any of the various cultures of the world, these principles could be found when they are working well in those various cultures. Oops, I'm getting out of sync here on my slides. Here we go. This slide. This slide is our theory of change for ServCollab. Lots of organizations have theories of change. We have a slightly different model than many. Ours is a circle, as you can see. It is a regenerative model, starting with our three wisdom principles to help you see what we're up to. That service is the beginning of it, serving each other. Serving the truth, we think, comes out most when we're collaborating. So that's number two for collaboration, for serving the truth. And serving the future is really when we are at our wisest as a species. So we think that by becoming better at service, we can become better at collaboration. By becoming better at collaboration, we can become better at wisdom. And we try to describe that with those three service flows. Service enables collaboration, collaboration enables wisdom, and wisdom enables service. And of course, we're suggesting that then it's a regenerative model, new things happening. And one last slide to finish up my set of these slides. This is what I've already touched on when I showed you that circular model on collaboration, which is number 7 on this diagram. These are the ServCollab service research themes that we have included in some of the documentation we'll be talking about later for the grants. When I began working on this project with the Journal of Services Marketing Editors, particularly Rebecca Russell Bennett, we took the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and thought hard about how could we compress these into 7 research topics that would be clear and useful to service researchers. So we came up with these 7. Well-being, and you can see at the bottom of that well-being box the Sustainable Development Goals that were part of that. No poverty, zero hunger, and good health and well-being. Second, opportunity. We compressed 3 more, and I won't try to list all the bottom part, but this that second major opportunities, major one was opportunity. For all those opportunities, this is where that well-becoming idea that I mentioned earlier really fits even best. It fits under opportunities. Third is resources. So we thought that that's a major area for service research, and there already is quite a bit of service research on various resources. But in the actual service literature today, if you look at those ideas from the Sustainable Development Goals, the only one of those 3 areas that service researchers have worked on is responsible consumption and production, but not very much research on the other 2 yet. Fourth is economic services. We do a lot of research in this service field, management folks too, on economic services and institutions. This is where some of the sustainable um, ideas that come out of service dominant logic play a major role in terms of institutions. And then 6 is service ecosystems with the planet. This is an effort to try to connect what they do in a field called ecosystem services with service research, looking at the various aspects of how humans interact with and affect planet Earth. And then last, collaboration, which I've already been touching on. So those are the 7 themes that are part, again, of our grant process. So with that, it's Qusay's turn. So Qusay, I'm going to change the slide control to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ray. In the second part of this webinar, I'm going to be talking to you about the research grants, give you a little bit background on the research grants and the scholarships as well. To start, first of all, my name is Qusay Hamdan, and I'm the Vice President and a Research Scholar at ServCollab. And I'm happy to have you all in this webinar today. It's really great pleasure to have this number of people interested. Right, the first thing that we want to say about the research grants and the PhD student scholarships is that these funding opportunities are made possible through the donations from ServCollab donors. And there are lots of details about the donations, how to donate, and all other interesting stuff on our website. Encourage you all to visit it. To talk about the research grants first, we intend these research grants are planned to be quarterly grants. Each quarter, we would award 5,000 US dollars for one research project that aligns with ServCollab mission and the ServCollab service research themes Ray explained in his very last slide. At this stage of our funding opportunities, we decided to support research ideas that have already made some progress, went ahead into progress steps, and that are invited for revision by a peer-reviewed journal. In the future, we have the ambition to also support research ideas from the beginning. For the current research grant, it has to be the eligible research projects has to be invited to for a revision by a peer review journal. The grants eligibility and application. To give you a little bit background on this, first eligibility factor, which is that at least one member of the research team has to be a member of ServCollab community. So ServCollab is building communities of researchers since last year. The effort started in spring last year. We are still ongoing process of building communities of researchers that would like to learn and collaborate on serving humanity. Two groups of the communities have, or subgroups of these communities have already formed. One is the ServCollab PhD student community, and the other is ServCollab early career community. From the name of these subgroups, the first is dedicated for PhD students, and the other one is for researchers that have finished their PhDs relatively in the recent years. Membership in these communities are completely free, and anybody is welcome. And also, I will share the link to join the community in the chat later on. The idea of the research grants, the ServCollab Research Grant, was actually initiated by our community members, and ServCollab responded to that need by creating these grants, research grants, and that's why we dedicate these grants for the time being for their community member. Right. The other eligibility and application process, the application, is open today. We opened the application today. There are some information needed. One of them is a form that will be in PDF format that is submitted with your application, that will include your research title, the journal revision invitation, so state what journal is inviting you for a revision, the abstract, maximum 1,000 words, the funding needs, planned expenses. You should explain how the grant would be helpful for you, and Amir, our grants and scholarships officer at ServCollab, will explain or elaborate more on these afterwards. And of course, the alignment, how your research is aligned with ServCollab mission and the service research themes. For the support and requirements, first thing is acknowledgement of ServCollab grants fundings is required. So if you get awarded the funding, so we require that you acknowledge the funding in the article when it's published and any communication about it. The recipients may also request mentoring from ServCollab. It's not a condition, it's just something that we offer for those who want. And again, the application was open already today. Now we're moving to the ServCollab PhD Student Scholarship. And from the name, the scholarships are for PhD students exclusively. This is one different from the grants. Another different is it's open for any PhD students. It doesn't have to be a member of our ServCollab community. Third thing is that this is our second year awarding the ServCollab PhD Student Scholarship, and the funding is $1,000 for PhD students that are presenting at the service conference. So you have to have an accepted abstract presenting at a service conference. The service conferences we include here in this slide some examples, like the ServSig in Braga and the Frontiers in Helsinki this year, or any other service conference. If you are attending any other service conference, you may also in your application explain how the service conference, attending this service conference is important for advancing TSR, and for you as a PhD student, how does it help you? The PhD student scholarship, it's supposed research, innovative research that aligns with transformative service research principles. Right. Again, it's open for PhD students from any discipline, and it doesn't have to be a member of the community. What are the requirements? Again, an accepted conference abstract, personal statement, and motivation. And the deadline will be the 2nd of March, and the announcement of the awarded recipients will be the 2nd of April. This is to sum up. We created a little table for you to sum up what are the differences between the scholarships and the grants. So first of all, the scholarship is $1,000, while the grants are $5,000 every quarter. The eligible applicants are PhD students, of course, and the eligible applicants for the grants are ServCollab community members. It could be PhD students, and it could be an early career community member, and it could be also the project could be also co-authored by several authors. One of them has to be a member of the community. The purpose, of course, here we are supporting conference presentations, and in the research grants is support revised and resubmit journal publications. 2nd of March, one more time, is the deadline, while the application for the research grants was open today. Now I will leave the floor for Amir Raki, our ServCollab Grants and Scholarship Officer, who is going to explain us the evaluation assessment and many other important factors. Amir, please go ahead.
Thank you, Qusay. I'm not sure if I have control over slides, Ray.
Yes, you do.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Amir. I'm lecturer in marketing at the University of Liverpool, also ServCollab Grants and Scholarship Officer. I had the pleasure of coordinating our scholarship scheme last year, and this is for the 2nd year that I'm coordinating this program for ServCollab. I'm going to keep it brief so that we have enough time for questions at the end, if there is any. Regarding I think I jumped on a slide. Yeah. So in terms of the assessment approach and in terms of the criteria, apart from the points that Qusay mentioned, it's quite flexible. So as long as you're a member of the ServCollab community and you have your conference paper accepted or your research invited for a revision in a journal, the rest is quite flexible, and it's up to you as researchers to develop your own application, because at the end of the day, you are the one who knows what you need. So it gives you enough flexibility to justify your funding needs, to align your study, your research with ServCollab mission and priorities, as well as outlining the opportunities that the funding or scholarship can create for you as a researcher. Some of the potential areas that this scholarship, the research grant could be spent on, I listed here based on the questions that we had through emails in the last few days since the announcement of the research grants. It could be spent towards the researcher's time if you are not on a full-time contract. It could be spent on some impact activities, including stakeholder engagement, policy briefs, community dissemination, and so on and so forth, as well as the traditional expenses that could go towards conference travels, open access fees, and so on. However, the key question here to justify in the application is, how does this funding enable you to advance research that serves humanity? When it comes to the assessment process itself, we are planning for a 2-stage assessment process. The first stage, we have a panel of 5 established service researchers with TSR background. And in the first round, the main focus is on the mission alignment, service research themes and their connection to ServCollab themes and mission, and then the quality of the research itself. Once shortlisted, the second round is going to focus on how the money is going to be spent, as well as the opportunities the grant is going to provide for the applicants. Again, based on the experience from last year, these are the main points that emerged from our successful applications. Genuine story behind the application and behind the research itself, being very specific about how the money is going to be spent, as well as clearly and explicitly connecting the work to impact and to the mission of ServCollab and TSR. A question that we had in the last few days was, do we need to apply for the entire 5K? No. You need to apply, and please apply for as much as you need, up to $5,000, and justify your expenses in your application. For the scholarship, for the PhD scholarship, it's more straightforward. It's about TSR alignment. It's about the quality of conference abstract being accepted in one of these two main service conferences. This morning we had the Frontiers in Service. They released the outcomes. So probably if you have submitted your abstract to Frontiers by now, you know whether it's been accepted or not. And then the personal statement in which you are going to, or the applicants are going to explain why TSRs matters to them, how the work itself serves humanity, and then the commitment and general authenticity of the application. Again, based on and following our last year approach, we are going to have a two-stage committee review. In the first stage, the focus is going to be more on the quality of the abstract, quality of the paper, and the personal statement. And then once shortlisted, a different set of reviewers are going to review those shortlisted papers. Last year, we had 37 applications, of which 7 was shortlisted. At the end, we awarded 2 PhD scholarships to 2 applicants. One traveled to Frontiers, and the other one attended the ServCollab conference. And then again, emerging from the previous year applications, these are the main points with regards to shortlisted applications. Very authentic and genuine in their personal statement, instead of having more kind of abstract general statements. Very clear connection to TSR, and then reflection on how the scholarship itself can improve opportunities or provide opportunities and developmental opportunities for the applicant. And I leave it there, Ray, and happy to take any questions and try to answer as much as I can.
Okay, thank you very much, Amir and Qusay, for your parts in doing this presentation. I mentioned in the chat that we'd take any questions that you might want to post there. Let's start with those, and then we'll take live questions if that was okay with Amir and Qusay. I'm going to change the way this displays on the recording so that it's multi-speaker, which works slightly better for a recording. So the first question we have here, to make sure I'm in the right spot, Curla Ferrer asked the question saying, thank you for the presentation. When is the deadline for the research grant, and when will the results be announced? So the deadline for the research grants and when the results would be announced. So I think, Qusay, you had that date on your slide. Microphone. Yeah, Qusay and Amir, turn your microphones on. It'll simplify
Yes.
things if you're answering.
For the scholarship, the deadline is on the 2nd of April, if that's
And on the
possible.
grants is what the curler was asking about.
For the grants, we have not decided yet the deadline, and we will inform everyone as soon as we have a clear decision on that. The idea is that we want to award these the grants like every 3 or 4 months, so 4 times a year. And the loop should be, I mean, expected to be within a couple of months, 2 months, something like that, right, Ray?
Right. To add one more key detail about this, since this is the very first time the research grants are going to be given, we're well aware that we need to make sure enough people are aware of the opportunity so that they can submit. So we have been in our earlier discussions thinking that we needed to give people enough time to learn about it and apply for it, which means that we don't have any plans for anyone to submit next month and probably shouldn't set the date any sooner than around maybe June for the
Yeah.
first submissions for the grants, with the intent of from there forward moving on more of a quarterly basis after that in terms of due dates. But we want to give people enough time to get this process moving well, and then we can continue it. And once people know that we're in the process of doing these, we think it will be straightforward. If you can't do it in this quarter, there's another quarter of grants coming, and you can apply in that quarter. But at first, we are trying to be very sensitive to the fact that this is new, and new things often take time to become accustomed to learn about and apply for. So we're trying not to be too quick to try to say, well, here's the deadline, you have to do this. We don't want to do that to people. We're trying to be gentle on this first effort. The conferences are slightly different, as Qusay has already mentioned. The scholarships are connected directly to conferences. And one of the conditions, as Amir's already touched on, is that you're accepted at one of the conferences. Now, I know that in the case of the Frontiers Conference, they've been sending out notifications. I expect the ServCollab conference that we've mentioned will be sending out notifications shortly. We also have not excluded other service-related conferences like the Lalande conference would be another possibility. Anything service-related we're open to as a application for the scholarships. But that one, because of the timing, we want to be able to evaluate those applications in time that that money can help the PhD student get to the conference. So that one has a more clear set of dates than the research grants. So that's a long answer, but I wanted to make sure we were clear on why we aren't as firm yet on the grants. So I think we have another one here, if I can get right back up to it. How many projects may receive the research grant, I think is one also from Curla. And we are anticipating at this stage that we would have one grant each quarter. Now I'm saying it anticipate because we're hoping that with the help of donors that we can go beyond that pattern and possibly have either more grants or more money associated with the grants. All of that's in the possibilities. But at first, much like the scholarships, where we initially announced one scholarship and we're only announcing one scholarship now, but when we had a clear set of two impossible to distinguish finalists, we gave two scholarships. So that's not out of the question for the grants, but we don't know. We have to wait and see what the applications are. But we are clearly, our goal is to help people with these grants and scholarships. So we're hoping that we can get to more projects than just one. We're definitely hoping for that because that would mean there's more progress. On next question, we have how should we submit the grants? This is from Yi-Ling Lee. How should we submit the grant applications? Qusay, I think you had touched on that in terms of the form, or was it Amir? I've forgotten which of you covered that one on submitting the forms.
Right, the application for both applications are open now, and you can find the application. I should share maybe the links for the grants and the scholarship in the chat shortly, so you can apply. At the end of the announcement that we share, there is a link that you can follow to apply to both opportunities.
Right. On the next question we have on the list is from Andrea Dixon. She's asking, um, first mentioning this is interested in joining. So this is the PhD student community. I think Andrea is mentioning. But then she says, for the PhD student application, please clarify what answer is expected in the job position and PhD topic. The job
I
position, I
can
think,
take that,
Qusay.
Ray.
What?
Yep. I can take that if you don't mind.
Please, go right ahead, Amir.
Yep. So in terms of the job position, it could be different in different countries as long as you are a PhD student. Just mention that PhD student in some countries is doctorate student or PhD researcher. So that could be the title that you have in your university and institution. In terms of the PhD topic, it could be the title of your thesis. So, like here in the UK, all of us, we have a title for our PhD, which is going to be the title of our thesis. Sometimes you have like a work in progress title, so that you can use that title for filling that box out if that answers your question, Andrea.
Right.
I can see we have one more question there that I'm seeing, and that is from Elena Tang. For a research grant, can the funding be used both to advance a current paper under revision and to support the next paper in the same project? That's one we hadn't actually included in our comments. So, Amir, of course, what are your thoughts on that? We didn't think of that possibility. So,
But I would say, Ray, for now, my answer is no, because the criteria says it should be invited for revision. But if we change the criteria in the future, we will announce it later. At the moment, based on the criteria that we set out, it's just about papers being invited for revision
right.
in a journal. I'm not sure if you have anything to add, Qusay.
Yes, for the other, I mean, the next paper in the same project can apply to the next period. I mean, after 3, 4 months, when the next grant is open, you're welcome to apply again. So,
All right, good. And I think I've exhausted all of the questions in the chat. So now we can go to live questions, which is always a good thing to do. So for any of you who might have a question you'd like to ask within Zoom, of course, there's a button for raising your hand, and turn on your microphone, please, and we will be happy to take live questions.
Just Ray, I just remind ourselves on the point that Andrew mentioned in the chat box. Thanks, Andrew. The ServC conference submission decision will be made by February 8th. So hopefully in few weeks' time, everyone, when it comes to PhD scholarship application, people will know whether their papers have been accepted in ServC or Frontiers or not.
Great, great. That's useful information to hear from Andrew. Wonderful. Surely there's some other question in the audience.
I have a question. If we have a revise and resubmit that really fits, do we need to put, or should we put, and I could, a PhD student on that paper and have them present it at the conference? And so would you apply for the paper and the scholarship that way? And alternately, could I just apply for the paper development?
You've asked a complicated question.
Sorry.
The
I can share my thoughts, Ray.
yes,
I think at the moment, these two grants and scholarships are different and independent. So you don't need necessarily to have two applications, but then there is no problem in having two applications out of one project and paper. For instance, the PhD student goes to a conference, but then the wider research team, they spend money on the paper and revision and resubmission as well. So there is no necessity, but there is no problem in doing that, I think. But we try to keep them independent from each other for the time being.
right. They are definitely intended to be independent. And we do know that there are PhD students submitting all by themselves to the conferences too.
Okay.
So that's certainly something we are hoping we can even encourage by having the scholarship money. In many countries, money for students to travel is more difficult to find than money for faculty to travel. And that's really why we started with that first effort to try to help grow the number of PhD students that might be able to afford to go to conferences.
I have one other question. Could you speak to some of the journal outlets that would make good targets? Or obviously, we'd first try for the revise and resubmit of the journal where we initially submitted. Um, but are there other journals that you'd recommend or specific journals?
Well, we don't have specific journals that we're requiring, is the
Mhm.
first thing to say, just for clarity on that. The most obvious um, goals for a transformative service research article would be among the service journals. That would be the easy thing to start with. And they would include the Journal of Services Marketing, which is the oldest of the ones that is directly tied to marketing. Journal of Service Management is one of the others that is quite old. Journal of Service Research came along not long after that. Those three are probably seen as the three most likely for such research on transformative service research. But now I get to add a whole bunch of other possibilities, okay? There's one that is more broad-based called the Service Industries Journal. There hasn't been much transformative service research in it. But then there are a variety of business-related journals that, frankly, from our perspective in ServCollab, we would love to see transformative service research in any other management journal, in any other finance journal, in any other accounting journal, economics journal, sociology journal, psychology journal. I'll stop with that example, but we would love for it to be any place that is a good fit for the topic. And we are, while the service research field started from marketing and management as the disciplines that was where the early people like me who got obsessed with it were, but there are people working in engineering now, service engineering. There are people working on service topics that do connect to sociology and psychology and social psych, which is the intersection of those fields, not to mention anthropology and so many other social science disciplines. From our perspective in ServCollab, any discipline that touches humans is likely to be a place where transformative service research could be and maybe should be published. Now, I doubt that the physics journals are going to be the best home for transformative service research, or chemistry, or some of the other fields that are not human facing. But if you look across the academic journal landscape, a huge number of disciplines are. And I've left out fields like criminal justice, education, law, healthcare, and some of the things I've already mentioned. So there's a lot of places for this kind of research. We will be open to that. So the ones that are the obvious targets, because that's where previous transformative service research has been, are again Journal of Services Marketing, Journal of Service Management, and Journal of Service Research. But do not think, I don't want any of you thinking that it has to be in those, because that's not our goal. Our goal is to serve humanity, and we think those other journals could benefit from publishing topics that we're interested in and encouraging.
And could I just mention too, macro journal of macro marketing
Of course, yes.
is, you know,
Yeah,
that's
social Journal of Social Marketing, yes. Any other marketing related, I left those out, but thank you for bringing that up, Tina. Any other marketing related journal? Journal of Business Ethics is another one that would be a
mm,
good home for some things. Yeah, yeah. Macro marketing is definitely a good fit. Social marketing is another good fit for a lot of the topics. It's really up to you as authors to find a home for what you're writing. But as long as it somehow intersects with what we are trying to support in terms of serving humanity, we will be open to that application. Other questions? Oh, I see there's a question from Yuchi Liu. Presentation accepted at Frontiers already good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so you're asking, would it be advisable to submit both for consideration or or you can definitely apply to both. We won't be looking at these processes as, well, you can only apply to one. That's not our goal. Um, we're only looking for good applications in both groups. So a good application, in other words, if your project fits what we've asked for and the scholarships, great. If it fits what we're asking for and the grants, that's great too. But we're not going to exclude. Amir or Qusay, anything else you want to add to that?
Well, you had a question in our last community meeting. Yushi is a member of our early
Right.
career community. Did we answer that, or is there anything else left? You you
Yeah.
you ask, I guess, about whether the grants can be used for covering the salary of the researcher, right?
Salary of the I don't think I asked that question. Did I? I can't I can't remember.
Maybe I'm mistaken.
All right, let me move to the next
Yeah.
question then. We have a question from Josephine Go Jeffries. What is the duration of the research grant?
Yes, so is there if one is successful, how long do we have to spend it?
I can answer that, Ray.
Yeah.
First of all, hi Josephine, good to see you. Uh, well, there is no duration, so it's flexible based on the time frame of your revision and resubmission process. So we don't expect the money to be spent in a certain period of time as long as it uh, adds up based on your research plan. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, thank you, Amir. I mean, our general goal is to be as flexible as possible to encourage research. So as Amir has mentioned, we're trying not to make it hard to apply. We're trying to make it clear and as unrestricted in terms of we haven't added a lot of super difficult details to fill out and what we want people to do. Because if we did that, we would only slow down the number of applications and it would make it harder for us too. We need more research. That's why we're doing these grants. And so we don't want to make it too hard. Andrea, you asked about how to determine which conferences are the service ones you support. I'll start that, and if Amir or Qusay want to answer in addition, that's great. But I've mentioned the two that we have actually communicated in our announcement, which are the two best-known service conferences this year, and they are the Frontiers in Service Conference and the ServCig Conference that are happening this year. Next year, the Quiz Conference will be happening in the UK at Cambridge in the UK. That'll be one when we go to next year's scholarships, we'll be encouraging that one. But not for this year because it wouldn't happen this year. I mentioned Lilan, that would be the other one. Those are the ones that we're most aware of that you would be likely to be submitting a transformative service research related project to. But certainly we would be open to an application that was somehow on our themes, but a different conference than what I've already described. And so, in other words, maybe a sociology related conference that would still have a service connection or of some kind. It might be a little less likely, but we're trying again to be open and flexible. Okay, other questions? Well, again, we recorded this session, so you will get the slides from us and be able to see all that material after the session. We booked this session for an hour and a half, but we don't have to use all that time. And we were trying to not be too restrictive in our booking of the time. But if we run out of questions, which we might have done, we can stop.
I just want to say thank you all to the team. This is really important work and rewarding to see the respect put toward transformative services research. I really enjoyed the work on transformative collaboration, and I'm anxious to dig into that. And I think it's really valuable that that you're supporting early scholars, as well as some of us who it's often difficult to get this kind of research published in journals that coincide with our disciplines and AACSB accreditation for business schools. And, this is a really wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tina. And I should add a point of encouragement because we are trying to encourage things, but I want to make a point about the history of service that relates to what you just said, Tina. When I began in 1980 doing a service research dissertation, to be clear, service research dissertation, and there were no such journals. There was basically it was like pushing the rock up the hill, and the rock would keep rolling back, and in the old mythology sense. But things changed because enough researchers got involved. I am expecting and I'm very optimistic that that same pattern will happen with enough people saying, here are some research opportunities to serve humanity, which of course is still within the service space. But when I was first doing research, I was looking at commercial services. Most of us were in 1980. Those few of us back then, we were looking at commercial services. Somebody had to pay for those. But now we're talking about all human interactions as service related, and that some human interactions are interactions of mistreatment or dominance, and that we should try to change those systems. This is where the transformative service research lens comes in. So I'm quite optimistic that we can help push things forward with the grants and encourage people. Meeting other service researchers when I was early in my career encouraged me tremendously, and things started moving. That's exactly what we're hoping to get to the next level. Because to me, as an old timer, this is the next level of fun, from the first stage of commercial services to human services.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments as we wrap up, folks? All right, well, it seems that we have run out of questions. So, Qusay, Amir, any last words from either one of you?
No, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you all.
excellent.
Thank you all for joining the webinar.
Yes, and thank all of you for being here. And of course, you will be able to find more information from our website. We'll be doing social media posts, and we're hoping to see some of you applying for these scholarships and grants. And again, this is just the beginning of the cycle for this year. We are planning more because there's always a need for more serving humanity research. And we'll stop with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.